Hey everyone, welcome to Buzzing About Romance Happy Hour Edition. I am Becky,
And I am Leah.
and we are super excited because joining us tonight for Happy Hour is author A.L. Jackson. Welcome to Happy Hour.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. We have been fangirling over this book um,
Oh, yes, so
for
much
two
so.
weeks. We're so obsessed.
Be so happy. I always get so nervous before release. Like, is everybody gonna love this book or not? You get the nerves. So it makes me
Well, it was
very.
funny. It was funny too, because Devin had sent us the arc, and then she had sent Becky the audio book. And Becky was like, "This audio is so good. You have to listen to it. Like, I can't get over how good it was." And I emailed Devin. I was like, "Could you please send me the audio as well?" She's like, "Yes, here it is." And so this is the first time I've ever listened to to a book in audio before I read it.
Oh, okay.
It was amazing. Like the best narrator choices, the best blend of narrators. It just was so good.
I love it.
This is one of those audiobooks that just enhances the story
Hmm.
and the reading experience. And I've been telling everyone all week, this is when to use your Audible credit on. You buy
Yep.
this book, get this
I love
book.
it. I mean, they do. I mean, I think it enhances the emotions when you have those voices that can really tap into that, and they
Hmm.
did such an incredible job with it.
I was in tears in this book so many times, and you always like to do a little bruising to the heart, but you always put us back together. This book, the emotions in this book, gosh, I'm so excited to talk about it with you. Um, okay, Leah, do a thing wherever we are.
Oh, I don't even know. We just started
We just
talking. Okay, so the
started.
rules of the night, you can ask all the questions in the chat if you joined us. We will do our best to answer them. Carolina is in our chat as well. She's going to be monitoring that. So if we miss it, she might answer it for you. In the description of the video are the links to all the places you can connect with Amy and us as well. And if you follow, like, and subscribe at the end of the night, one lucky person will win a swag filled box from us.
I got a
Ooh, a
heart
girl child
heart
crocheted
coaster
coaster,
and then a cherry book sleeve
book sleeve,
and some other fun swag that I got laying around. So
and some fancy stickers because you were trying to get rid of stickers the other day.
I too I love stickers, but I also love sharing them. So I'm happy to share them out.
Why are stickers the best thing in the world? Like, I just don't know.
Well, okay, I don't want to spoil it, but I made a really cool item for our Patreon members this month. It's so cool. I'll show you, Amy,
Okay,
after the
deal.
live because I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but I'm really excited about it. We didn't say the title of the book. So A.L. Jackson's latest release is Promise Me Always. This is book 4 in the Redemption Hill series, but this is 100% a standalone book. You do not
Mhm.
need to have read the 3 previous books. However, I do encourage you to read the 3 previous books because I really like them.
They're very, very good.
Um, okay. So let's kick things off in the traditional way. Amy, what are you having to drink tonight? Is it tea?
It is okay. I have the flu or a cold or something, so I am having a
I love
sadly
your mug.
mug of tea. But is that not the cutest mug you've
I
ever seen?
love that. I love a mug. Although I don't have a mug tonight. I am
Just drinking out of a
I
purple
love it.
cup.
So yes, regretfully, I am not having cocktails with you tonight.
I'm drinking Topo Chico water, sparkly
I
water.
just have plain water tonight, so we're
Oh,
being extra boring.
well, it's
Okay.
it's hump day. I did have coffee this morning. I have a hump day mug. So I did have coffee out of my hump day mug today. It has
Ooh.
camels on it, and my husband's name is Mike, and so on Wednesdays I like to ask all the children what day it is. They
I
think
never
I'm
do that one, but I have a husband named Mike as well. Maybe I should start doing that one. Although I didn't see him until tonight, like when got home from work. So that really wouldn't have made this sense.
So let's get to know you a little bit before we start asking all the questions about Tess and Milo because God, I love them so much. Um, Miles might be I always thought Judd was one of my absolute favorites, and I also liked um, Reese from the Kiss the Stars. Um, but geez, I think Milo might have topped for me for book boyfriends.
That's amazing. He is, yeah, there was something really special about him.
He's
Mhm.
so swooning. I loved him. Okay, so Amy, where's your favorite place to write? Do you just only write in your office? Do you like to travel, like to the Starbucks to write?
I exclusively write in my office. I find it so difficult to write anywhere else. So I always have like authors like, let's do a writing retreat. And I'm like, I will come, but I will not write one word. That does
Are
not.
you a people watcher?
I am a people watcher and,
Same.
and I enjoy chatting. And, if I'm with people, then I just want to be with people because I think that it is such an isolated job that like when I'm together, like but for me to really like get into my story, I have to be totally alone. So I've never trained myself to be able to write with other people around. So I've just learned I'm much more productive if I'm in my office.
That is fair. I like to people watch, and I think Starbucks is like one of the coffee shop, period. Any coffee shop is one of the best places to watch people.
Well, it's funny because Becky was at a coffee shop last week and I called her and like half like time we were talking, she's just like looking out at like all the people around. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm at the coffee shop. What do you think? I'm watching everybody around me. I'm like, I will just talk to you later because you're not paying attention to
I
me.
was.
Yeah. He's like, excuse me for a minute.
um, okay, so what is the one thing you always have with you when you're writing?
A cup of coffee.
Cup of coffee. I love coffee.
Gotta have it. But I drink it black because I drink so much of it. So it's
I
very
like
boring.
I like
It's
creamer.
okay. Boring is good.
I bought myself a new coffee pot after Christmas with a frother. Now I'm obsessed
Ooh.
with frothy oat milk. Anyway.
Like that's very sexy. I like that.
Just in fancy pants mode. So your writing has a really distinctive style. Is it hard to keep that flow throughout the story?
That is pretty naturally how I write. I tried to not write so much like that, and
Mhm.
it kind of gets toned down in editing to try to like make it a little bit more palatable. But I'm very, very flowy, and the more I'm into the story, the flowier it gets.
Because you have this lyrical quality to it. And actually, when I was listening to the audiobook, I about a third of the way through the book, I was like, oh, I'm going to just eyeball it for a couple chapters. But trying to go back and forth between the two, it really like set me off a little bit. And so I was like, I'm just going to stick with audio because you're writing it translates to audio so well. It gives this theatrical performance almost to it. And it was like a delight for my ears.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, and I love like the lyrical feeling, and I feel like I kind of write in. My daughter says when I write, like she can come in and she thinks I'm like composing like an orchestra, the
Mhm.
way that I'm like, but I literally like my body flows with it as I'm going, and that's just the way it comes out.
But it's so amazing. And like Leah said, this audiobook just takes your words and it becomes this immersive
Mhm.
experience. And it's almost like that experience when you're at the symphony and the sound is just reverbing all around you. The words in this book just came to life in this audiobook, and I could not put it down. I couldn't speed it up. I needed just to
I actually
experience
had
it.
to slow it down because I listened to my audiobooks at like 1.75 to 2 and I slowed it down because I needed that like
They're just,
lull.
this book is
Yeah, that
so
feeling.
beautiful.
You gotta have like those pauses sometimes. I listen
Hmm.
to mine. I just became an audio listener. I couldn't do it for a long time because I just felt so compelled to be in a book, like in the words.
Hmm.
But I learned that I really do love it, and I listen to mine like at 1.3 because I like still having like the pauses so I can like digest like,
Yeah.
ooh, that line was amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm new to audio too. And like I said, yours is the first one I've listened to before I've eyeballed. I've only reread a book through audio, but it
Okay.
was like a whole different experience this time around, which I did tell Becky, I was like, I think I'm going to listen to Amy's books only on audio from now on.
I always
'Cause-
pick the best narrator, so you can totally always listen
well,
to
and
me.
we were
Such an
talking to
incredible job.
Katie from Lyric about how amazing Connor and Samantha did in this book and how like perfectly their voices match the characters and they flow well together. And that I think that's part of the experience is these two narrators meshed so like easily and perfectly with the characters and each other. And you don't always get that in an audiobook, and it kind of throws you out of the experience.
It was my
Oh,
first
that makes
time
me feel so
listening.
good. I'm so glad.
It was my first time listening to both these narrators,
Mm-hmm.
and they meshed up so good, and they did the kids' voices so fantastic.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about inspiration for Redemption Hills before, like, so I stop gushing about this. I'm not kidding. I've been fangirling over this book for 2 weeks, and it's just like I love it so much. Okay, Redemption Hills. This is Northern California, Middle California.
Like Northern California. I kind of pictured like, the Tahoe area, like those very mountainous area, but like of course so fictional that like it became its own place to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It became its own place to me too. 'Cause I'm like, I'd like to go there.
It's real. It is actually on the map now.
Excellent. Um, we so I just love the characters of Tess and Milo, and I was telling you before, Milo has definitely hit book boyfriend status. Like he might
Mhm.
be my all-time favorite of your heroes, and I have some others of yours that I just adore. Judd, who's in this series also, and then Reese from your last series.
You like the burly guys, don't you?
I do
Uh-huh.
love, so that's what I think is so amazing. You do not write one type of body type when you
Mm-mm.
write your books. Everybody is
Yeah,
so
everybody's
distinctively
different.
different.
Gotta spread the love around.
I love the beards and the burly guys and the way, so we've met Milo throughout this series, and you just knew that he was, when he fell, it was going to be so hard, and he'd had this kind of connection, chemistry to Tessa. And there were a couple times I really wanted him to like just beat the heck out of Tessa's boyfriend.
Oh, he was the worst.
He was the
Yes.
worst. The worst.
He needed to get beaten up for sure. But was
Yeah,
that scene so fun?
it was perfect. Like the way
I
that
love
it
Tessa's
went down.
reaction. I was dying laughing when she was like, "Is he dead?"
Yes. Um, so let's talk about Tessa and Milo because they are. Is it hard to write a character? Because you kind of set these two up, this mutual attraction in book one. Is it hard to not just fast forward to their story?
I initially was not going to write Tessa's story. Like this was
What?
it was just the brothers
Hmm.
at the beginning when I first started writing. So when Tessa was on the page and Give Me a Reason, I got so many messages from readers about how in love they were with Eden's best friend.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy, I'm gonna have to write her story because I mean it was like I always get love for side characters, but not
Mhm.
like this. Like, this was the first time where I was like inundated with messages about, and the reviews were mentioning her and everything. And I was like, oh, people are gonna be really disappointed if she doesn't have her own story. And so I knew it was gonna have to be the last one because I did have each of the brothers planned out first. So I kind of like I get really absorbed in what I'm writing. So it's easy for me to like set that aside until I get there. Usually at the
Mhm.
very end of editing of whatever book I'm on, my brain starts spiraling into the next one, like getting little ideas like, okay, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. But for the most part, I'm usually able just to set that aside until it's time to write it.
Okay, well, I've been obsessed with Tessa since book one. So.
But it's funny because we know a couple authors and they always say like if you're not planning on writing a book for a character, you don't ever name them.
Oh, who knows? Why didn't no one ever tell me this before?
We're here to help.
Mhm.
You know how long my series would be though, right? Because I'm like, and now I'm like, well, wouldn't it be really good for Gretchen and Gary to have their own story? Like I'm gonna start writing like 70-year-olds into the
It's true.
Yeah,
Gary should
well,
have a book.
and actually, Leah and I were talking the other night, and we've already spinned this off to a next gen because we're going to need
Yes,
Junie
because
B's
we
story.
need Junie B so much. Like
She's a
she
little
is
queen.
such a delight. She is a
and she
queen.
adorable.
I just loved
You know,
her.
But
and
you've
I
never done a
did
second gen.
I did envision doing a next generation for this. Of course, I have to still go back and do Bleeding Stars first because that is a next generation I wanted to do, but to do a full one, because there's so many children in that series, and of course
Mhm.
I loved, Brendan like was like my heart because he's lyrics my book husband.
Yeah.
So his son, of course, is like has such a special place in my heart. So I've always wanted to do that, but I really needed like a lot of time to pass before, because they were still children in my mind. So I needed them to grow up. So like the same as this, I could see in the future doing something. Because I mean, how cute would Gage and Junie be together? And like, I always felt like it was kind of like be a fun forbidden romance because they're cousins, but not by blood.
Yeah.
So
They're
I
cousins,
like
but
that.
not cousins. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was actually Becky's idea too. She's like, these two should totally get together.
Well, they're so cute, and they're always like, "We're gonna get married." You know, they're like, it was in my head that
Well, and
next time,
she's so bossy with him too. She's like, go and do this. And he's like, okay.
yeah, she's a bossy little one.
But but he talks about her like also like he's infatuated with her and
Hmm.
just he worships her just as a friend and his love. Like he was one of the best surprises in this whole series. Is just no matter the chaos that was happening around this child, his parents did something, his dad did something right. He made
Hmm.
sure that he saw the good in the world, knew what love was, and could experience that in a natural and freeing way. And same with Junie B. I mean, her mom was on the run for all those years. And but even when her mom was having her own fears and worries about what could happen, Junie B was able to experience that it's okay to have connections, it's okay to love
Yeah,
people, and
which I love so much.
so
And
much
that's like the
power.
hardest part of writing children into these stories. Like the most heartbreaking thing I've ever written was when Salem was like packing their stuff and like trying to take her out of the house, and she's like pulling back and saying like, I don't want to go on another adventure, I want to stay here, you
Hmm.
know. And I was like, man, this is literally the saddest thing to me because like she was so
Hmm.
happy and finally found her place in her home. And so that's the hardest part about the kids is like, I don't want to cause them so much trauma because they do become real to me. But at the same time, I feel like they're like the hope of the story. I always love having kids because I write such heavy things. And to
Hmm.
me, they're always like the light and the hope and like usually what like the parents are fighting for and striving to make a better life for. So
Well,
I love writing kids into stories.
and that's one thing I really like about your books is any book that you have a kid in, it's always an age appropriate like description of the kid. And I feel like that translates really well because like there have been books that I've read where they have like a 5 year old, but the 5 year old talks like they're 17. I'm like, mm, there are some extremely intelligent 5 year olds, but they don't actually speak like that ever. Or there's like a 3 year old who's on like a 12 year old's like scale. And it's just but your kid, like any kid that I've read in one of your books are always age appropriate with they have little quirks and tidbits and things that like age them in an appropriate way, but they're always engaging, but they're never on the page too much or too little, which I think is a really nice thing too.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to, you know, take from my kids like at different ages through their lives and my
Hmm.
nieces and nephews and all of that. Just different and usually all my kids, I always get asked if any of my characters are based on somebody I know. The kids always are. So it's always like,
Hmm.
you know, like um oh my gosh, Callie from A Stone in the Sea was my daughter at that age.
Yeah.
And so I took like some of her cute quirks that she had. And so I try to do that all the time and implement that into each of the characters. And I just think it makes them more true to life. I get like criticized for the kids a lot for some reason, the way they talk. But like every kid I've ever interacted with has some sort of, you know, stutter or, you know,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
I like writing that because I think it kind of sets them apart.
You
But
just send them to me. I'll tell him what's at.
yeah,
Just
But
send
I
them. I'll
think
be
that
like,
I think that the one thing that I like too, though, is not all of your kids talk the same way. It's like Gage and Jeannie B, like they're both the same age, but they both have different like quirks in their speech. It's like my 11-year-old like couldn't pronounce his R's until he was in like fifth grade, but like my 9-year-old can like has like almost perfect speech compared to it. So it's like if you would put them at the same age at the same time, like they would have spoken differently. So it's like you need to see those differences in the fact that not every kid is developing the same way.
yeah, which I really enjoy doing, and I love bringing in the pieces of the children that have been in my life who I love,
Mhm.
and to me I just, you know, I don't ever want to bring adults into it because I think that then like emotions get drawn into it, where this is just like me showing my love for my family by like adding them into it. Like they can
Mhm.
be like, you know, I'll be like, Auntie put you in the story, and like my nieces think it's the coolest thing ever, and now they're much older. The one uh from take this regret, and her name was Lizzie Elizabeth, and so it's for my niece Parker Elizabeth, and she was a little girl when I wrote that story years ago. Now she's getting ready to turn 18. She's getting ready to graduate. But like that's her story, and to her, that's always been her book. Like, oh, this is the book I'm in, and so I really loved being able to do that.
I love that.
So we have some questions in the chat.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Leah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sure.
I was just moving on.
Okay. So would you say that the Redemption Hills is different from your other series? Do you think this one is different? It's small town, but wasn't Stone in the Sea, isn't that a small town romance?
Yeah, basically most of my books are small town.
Yeah, Confessions of the Heart was small town too.
Like a little bit, it's a city, but a little bit more small town. But then, yeah, we have the Fight for Me series. Confessions of the Heart is also small town. I think it's because that, like my branding was a little bit different. So I think that the rock star romances like gave the perception that they were different, but they're really not. They're basically the same type of emotions and tropes and all of that. They were just like in a different setting, like around musicians. But like when you read a rock star romance, and I've been told this so many times, like they expected something entirely different with a rock star romance than what they got from me.
Yeah, your rock star romances are not typical. They are not what you expect, and anyway, they're so good. Read those, guys.
So yeah, to answer the question, I really don't think it's very different at all. I think it's very similar. I like all my stories to be unique, but also for somebody to be like, oh, I like A.L. Jackson's books and I read it because of this, and to always satisfy that.
You always rip me apart, so I have to be like in the right headspace to go into one.
You can always plan on getting torn apart a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm a big mood reader, and so like I have to be like in the zone to be completely obliterated.
Definitely, and you have to kind of leave. And I really like angsty romance as well. Like that's what I read for my own pleasure reading. But there's some authors that I have to be, because I know, like, I'm like, sometimes I'm even scared to start reading it. They're my favorite.
Like get your game face on.
I don't know if I can do it. What was that?
You have to get your game face on.
Yes, definitely.
Susie asked, are you going to continue to stay in Kindle Unlimited? You don't move books out, do you?
I have not in a very long time, and I don't plan on it at this point. I'm not that I never, that I'll forever be in there, but at this point in time, I have no plans to take them out.
And it's doing just great in Kindle Unlimited. The last time I looked, it was sitting at 28. So in the Kindle Read store, I don't know if it moved up from earlier today.
Store?
It's been jumping all over the place.
I don't even know. Yeah. I'm making words up, Leah.
So awesome. So thanks to everybody who's read it and downloaded it and all of that.
And Gretchen wants to know, is the audiobook Audible exclusive, or do you have it dropping on other platforms?
It is available also on Apple Books. It's like it is through Amazon, but it's like to the different places that they distribute it to. Okay. So I know it's not like on like the smaller platforms, but you should be able to get it also on Apple Books.
Because we have a few people in our community that are almost strictly audiobook listeners, and so they like to know all of the options.
Which makes sense because we're a podcast, which is an audio experience.
Absolutely. I probably said that wrong. Is it Apple Books that it's on?
Yeah.
I'm questioning myself now. Okay.
No. Yes, Apple Books.
I'm not familiar with all the other platforms where you can read them.
Well, we have an episode dropping on Sunday, and we talk about all the different markets for audiobooks, and you don't realize how many different places there really are. And so, but yes, Apple Books, it would be, the audio would be available there. Let's see here. Did I miss any other questions?
I think we got them all.
Okay. So back to kids. Do you think it's hard to balance? So these relationships are intense in these books with these big emotions. Do you find it hard to balance that chemistry when you have kids in a story? I think you do it exceptionally well. There's never a moment where I'm like, oh, no chemistry there. No, like there's always chemistry. But as a writer, do you find that challenging for you?
I don't think so. I feel like they kind of flow seamlessly together. And I think it's like a breather for the reader, like when the children come on the scene. So it gives that opportunity like to get for different emotions to be there, to come on the plate, where there's still like the connection and chemistry between the hero and heroine, but at the same time it's able to just like, it gets diverted for a moment where that you can kind of feel a little bit of different from either the father or the mother, whoever, the child belongs to. And so I think I'm able then to relate it to the other person. So you're able to see like, like take like Tessa, for example, when she was witnessing Milo with his kids for the first time, and like her like seeing him in a different light that way. And the same as when Milo was like seeing Tessa interacting with them, and he was so like, oh my God, like she was so wonderful with them. So I'm able to like draw those type of emotions where that like long term, obviously, those people are going to have to be 100% committed to the kids as well, when they, get their happily ever after, because I do always give you that. So I don't know. I think that I hope that I give that balance when that I'm writing it, and it doesn't like feel dry once the children are on the scene, or icky too. Like there's some scenes I've read before where I was like, ooh, that's a little much around the kids kind of thing. But
You gave such big emotions, like Milo's mother. There's a scene between
I
him.
loved her.
I loved her. She was fantastic. And I'm not going to spoil this, but at the end of the book, like,
Oh, she hands him his ass a little bit.
she hands him his ass and is like, "Are you stupid?" And it was such a mom way to respond when you see your child making like a big mistake. But she was so authentic. I just really adored her. But there's a great scene between her and Milo's little girl when they come to the house. And
I love that scene so much. I am not a crier, you guys, but like I literally was so teared up when I not when I was writing it, but when I was doing my read through, I was like,
yeah,
so many tears right now.
But then you hear these audio narrators bringing it to life, and it's just that much more emotional. It was, yeah. Anyway.
Well, and I think one thing that you do really well, one thing that bugs me about other books is when there's the kids and the relationship between the hero or heroine that are not connected to the kids originally, and the kids and that person don't mesh well. Like there's not a relationship built there. And I feel like that's one thing you do really well is you create this really intense relationship with the kids and the newcomer, so to speak. And their father or mother, like if you took them out of the equation and like away from the situation, like it would still have that tight knit family element that I love about your books.
I mean, because I feel like at the end of the day, that relationship has to be so strong. Like to me, I wouldn't want to put children in a person together if that they weren't going to have that. Because even if I would never write a story where like the mom died, like my heroine or whatever, or the hero. But like if that were to happen, like those kids would still be safe with them, and that person would know that their child would be loved and treated like that person's own child.
Yeah, and you don't always get that, and I feel like you do a really good job of making that like enhancing that relationship with the kids and the hero or heroine, whichever it may be. But let's talk about the treehouse.
Okay, did you build a treehouse? Because your husband is super handy, right?
My husband?
Yeah.
Yes, he's super handy.
He builds stuff all the time.
Does this treehouse exist in real life? Because I want one. I should tell my Michael about it and be like, can you build
do that and then send me pictures? No, the treehouse did not exist, but like, how could I not imagine Milo outside, shirtless,
like that whole scene,
building this treehouse? Like it had to happen, right?
Yes.
But and if when my kids were younger, they of course had it wasn't a tree house because we didn't have a sufficient tree in our backyard, but it was like a whole, structured play thing that my husband built. Yeah. And I love that, that's like such like, a guy that's like very hands-on like that, like that would be their love language, creating something like that for their child. And I saw that for my husband, that he was so invested in it because he wanted to create something so special for his children. Yeah. And I just saw Milo being that way.
I don't stalk Amy or anything and know that her husband is super handy. I swear I saw it like on Instagram or something, like you were doing a remodel or something and he was helping you, maybe your floors.
Literally in the garage right now with our youngest son, working on our son's car with him, teaching him how to fix it.
Like I knew that he was super handy. I swear I don't stalk too hard.
You do. You do.
She's going to be like, okay, Devin, note.
Like, Devin, watch out for Becky.
She's not safe. Um,
Sorry, guys. I apologize for my dogs are running in and out of the room
It's
because they're
they're
in the garage
adorable.
working. And we're like, we want to go out there too.
Oh
And
they
my.
our
are.
baby
They're so cute.
neutered yesterday, so he's not allowed to go out there.
Well, and
Oh,
I love that you have dog beds in your office because I too have dog beds in my office and my dogs are
I
currently
don't
asleep
have
in the dog
dog
beds.
beds. I have chairs that he hops from one to the other, although he's upstairs tonight.
He wants to be on the same level. I would actually, I've been contemplating getting like a big bench seat for my desk so the
So they
dogs
can
can
sit next to you.
sit next to me because they want to get on my lap all the time. And my older
Yours
French
are
bulldog
little. They can
is like
do that.
60 pounds. That one's giant, the white one. He's so heavy. And so he's like trying, I'm like trying to wrap my arms around him and tight. It does not work very well.
Well, I have a 60-pound Aussie Collie, so
Oh my gosh, yeah. That is not a lap dog.
although he likes to be sometimes.
I was going to say I have Aussie Shepherds and they think they're lap dogs and they are not lap dogs. Um so I have to ask, do you listen to your audiobooks? Do you do the re-listen or do you make others do that? Is it weird to hear your words come to life like that?
It is weird. And so I tried years ago to listen to a whole audio of mine. And I got to the sex scenes and I was like, oh God, I had to turn it off. Like I could not do it. I was literally in the shower and it was like, and I was like, oh no. And so, and I can listen to them for other people, but I think it just like brought it to life so much that I was like, I don't know, I got embarrassed. And so I listened to portions of it, but I just because I started listening to audiobooks myself, like I think I want to try it again. And I know the narrators are so good because I listened to, several chapters at the beginning to make sure that they mesh together and that they have the
Mhm.
correct and or inflections and all of that. And so they're amazing. And so I've gotten in that feeling where I was like, oh, I want to continue listening. So I think that means it's time for me to do it.
Yeah. This book, I'm not kidding you guys.
I would just suggest starting with this one.
Just
Like it's
I'll do
you
it.
just
I'll
hop
listen
right
to this
into it.
audiobook.
It's so
I
good.
listened to it the first time, and that's like I'm listening in the car, and I started doing that thing where I was just sitting out there in the garage. I got home for like a really long time, and I was like, oh man, this is how you get sucked in for sure.
It totally is. It
Mhm.
totally is. Or, this is when you do like the mom drive through. Do you do this? You leave like maybe a half an hour early before you have to pick a child up somewhere, go through the drive through, get yourself some French fries and a Coke, listen to your book.
A little bit longer, a little bit. See, I had to create new inventive ways since all my kids are grown. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like taking the dogs to the vet.
Yeah. The
It's
dogs,
true.
we're just going for a ride for the dogs. They needed a treat.
So
Exactly.
Susie would like to know, is there a trope that you will not write?
A trope I will not write. Um, I don't like super forbidden romance, like the super taboo types.
Mhm.
I mean, and not that I have anything against it for other people to read or anything like that, just for myself, like I just like a really emotional, like love story. And so I think I would have a hard time kind of getting into those subjects where it's kind of like questionable.
Mhm.
That's fair. I think
And
taboo
then,
can be a challenge too, because it doesn't always
well,
hit for everybody.
well, and sometimes it like I like a taboo romance, but sometimes it gets a little
Yeah. It has to be done really well and have a purpose behind it, I think, as far as,
Nope.
from my perception of it. So
I agree.
I don't know. I don't really think my readers, like knowing my reader base, I don't think they would even want that from me. So
Mhm.
I think they're pretty
Uh,
good there.
Leah sends me down these breeding kink books, and I'm just like, these are different.
There's nothing wrong with the kink.
No, I'm not
Yeah,
kink
that's entirely
shaming.
different,
At least I don't read those Hugh
but
Cow books that
yeah,
you were like reading.
there's little things that I just like, don't think I like that.
We read some weird stuff.
We do read.
It's for the good of the
There's
podcast.
interestingly weird things out there, and I love like I love paranormal and fantasy. So like when you get into
Mhm.
like some monster things, like I like that too. But that's just fantasy. So that's a
Exactly.
different than like taboo to me.
Yeah, I read the balloon animal shifter romance that was out there.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a balloon animal shifter romance. That's amazing.
I did. Clippy from Microsoft, he has some shifter styled romance. Anyway, I've read them. I like them. I think they're funny.
I read it.
I think they're funny. Um,
And moving on.
What is the one book of yours you wish everyone would read?
Oh man, that's a hard question. Um, Probably Give Me a Reason, because I feel like that gives a really good example of what I do. And then from there, if you love that book, you're probably going to love all my books.
It's such a great book.
It really is. I
I
love
love
that
it.
book.
And it's just like the beginning of a series. I think it just kind of gives like that world building that you can expect, like the family and all of that. So I think that
Mhm.
that kind of lets a reader know like this is A.L. Jackson style.
Yeah.
So one thing in your book that Becky and I have noticed, and I'm sure that other people do too, is you almost have this mantra that like flows throughout the book. Like in this one, it was Mad Love. In Judd and Salem, it was Black
Black
Magic.
Magic.
Mhm.
Is that something that you come across by accident, or do you go into the book saying, like, having this like thought in your mind, like, this is what's going to be like this theme throughout the book?
It's always by accident. Because it'll be something that I'll type because like I'm a flow writer, right? So I'll be like in there and it's like boom, boom, boom. And then I'm like, oh, there it is. There's my mantra for the book. And so
Uh-huh.
and sometimes it changes. Like sometimes I'll get to another one and like I feel like it's better fitting for the couple and I'll go back and change,
Hmm.
add it in. So it is usually by accident, but then I purposely go in and like
And
fill it in
add it.
places where it's
But
applicable.
it always fits and flows really well. And I just love it so much.
That makes me so happy. I love that, and then I love like being able to have that as like my little signature thing on the paperbacks and stuff, just to
Hmm.
have a
Oh, yeah.
special thing.
Yeah, because like in Judd's book, Black Magic, like that explains so much. Like just that simple phrase gives you all the feels, all the vibes of that book, and it describes like who Salem and Judd are together. Um,
Yeah,
it's yeah.
I love that. That's so great. And I love that that was like almost his first perception of her. And that
Oh
one
yeah,
was
100%.
remain. Like that was, I think he said that like, I don't know, in
It
the
was on
first
like page like
chapter.
7 or something like that. Like
Yeah.
as soon as he saw her, like those words came out of his
I
like
literally
brain.
changed her name to Salem as soon as that
Well, what was her name originally?
I I'd have to go back and look because I don't remember because she became
Mm,
Salem so quickly. But as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, her name's Salem.
I love that.
Um. Oh, sorry, I got lost in thinking about
No worries.
Judd and Salem because I'm like, wait, we're not talking about that book. Um,
So do you have a
All over my sweatshirt.
oh,
that's
that's okay.
usually
It
my
happens to
deal.
us all the time. Do you have a favorite character or couple that you have written? Or is it, well, but you already said the lyric is your book boyfriend and you wrote him. So I
Oh, I
guess that you do. Do you have a favorite couple that you have written?
it's that's so hard. Like I really love Trent and Eden. I
Hmm.
loved Milo and Tessa. Tessa just like her personality with his, like they were just such like perfectly meshed together. Like I think that
Hmm.
they are so memorable. There's something about them that I really love. So they are definitely way up there.
They have the
Uh,
most unfake fake relationship I have ever read.
There was nothing fake
As
about
I
it.
was writing out the tropes, and I'm like, oh, fake relationship. This was the fakest relationship
Well, but
ever.
like one of them even basically says that. Wasn't it his mom?
His
She's like,
mom.
that wasn't fake at all.
yeah. Well, and the thing is like Tessa did it out of so much love for him.
Hmm.
It wasn't out of convenience. She did it because she loved him. So I think that when you have that circumstance, like it's never going to be fake.
Yeah. Yeah. She has such a good heart. And I think that we see pieces of it as she's a friend in the other books, but we get the full scope of just how big her heart is and also desperate to be someone to someone. She just,
Yeah.
it's not that
It
she
made me a little
needed,
sad finding that out about her, that she was at the end of the day lonely. And so, yeah.
yeah, just that
Amanda says that she loved Trent with the power of 1,000 burning suns.
I don't blame you.
Amanda was also one that has made us strong arm authors to declare book boyfriends hers.
Oh yeah.
So just
No,
watch
she
out
is a
for that,
book
Amanda.
husband. Book husband.
Like both Amanda and I might be on someone's watch list as we obsess about
There's just an intensity to it that you're not quite expecting.
I know. Um, okay. So, if you guys are still here hanging out with us, give us a hey so that I can take your name down if I can find a pen. Found a pen. Um, so if you guys got any questions, throw them in the chat. Sebastian and Shay is still one of my favorite couples.
Mm.
I'm not allowed to claim anymore. That's Amanda. She said you can't claim anymore. So what is next for you, Amy? Are you taking a break a little bit, or are we gonna see a new series?
We'll be seeing a new series coming soon. I haven't announced it yet. I can tell you that it'll be coming late spring, I think. Late spring-ish, maybe at the beginning of the summer. And it is another small town romance series about a trio of cousins that are kind of like brought together by a tragedy. So they're there, and it's all of their stories surrounding that.
Okay.
Sounds
And
very
it's gonna be
good.
super.
I love when a tragedy like brings people back together. Like there's this moment. Just love it so much.
Well, I also like how you do family, and sometimes the family doesn't have to. You have such a great blend of DNA relation and found family in your books. And I just like how you marry the two together because the connections always seem equally as strong and as important to the characters. And I just really like how you do that.
Thank you. I think that's the most important thing, family, whether if it's found or you were born into it. Like it's at the end of the day, that's what's most important to me. So I like writing that.
Let's see.
One of my old neighbors at our old house, they had this plaque. They had this really nice koi pond that we used to sit out, and they had this plaque that said, "Your friends are your chosen family." And I always thought that was like the best way to put it.
Yes, I love that so much.
Mm.
Hold on one second. Amy, pick a number between 1 and 8.
7.
7. Hold on a second. Carolina, you won a book sleeve and a coaster. My girl child has taken up crocheting, and now I need to come up with projects for her to make things.
Did she make another turtle?
That's so cute.
She did for Carrie.
The turtle is adorable.
Okay, Carolina, so I will get this shipped out to you. I have packages to go out. Amy, thank you so much for joining us for happy hour tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Promise Me Always is available now on Kindle Unlimited. We highly, highly recommend and suggest the audiobook.
Yes. I mean, you can eyeball it too, but it's a new experience for your ears.
It's an amazing experience in the audiobook. Happy release, and until next time, everyone.
Happy reading, everybody.